Hello guys, welcome to this session. I'm here to explain to you the third chapter of First Flight, two stories about flying. As you understand by the title, there are two stories in this chapter which are combined into one, and the stories have one moral that if one overcomes his fear, he can get success. There are two stories. His first flight is about a young bird seagull who learns to fly for the first time. As the title suggests, his refers to the young seagulls. First flight means pehli udan. As you understand, the first flight of a young seagull. This story is written by Liam O'Flaherty. Children, you must have sometimes realized that even birds and animals have brains. They sometimes have to use their brains how to teach their children and their small ones and how to face the danger. So we all know that human beings are the most intelligent ones, but even the birds and animals possess the skills of teaching their children and have the young ones and others also. They give us a lesson. So this story gives us a very important lesson how to treat or how to train our young ones. The story has a main character of young seagull who is afraid of flying, and he has a big family of six children, six people. The mother seagull, father seagull, and his two younger brothers and a sister. So this consists of six people in the family, and the seagull is the youngest one, and he is afraid of flying, so he doesn't come out of his hole, and sometimes he comes but he just stays on the ledge. Let's start the story. The young seagull was alone on his ledge. Ledge is a narrow projecting horizontal shelf which is projecting from a wall or a cliff. Cliff here means a hill which is very sharp pointed, and sometimes some stones or piece of rock comes out of a cliff that makes it a place to sit, and so bird was sitting here only. The young bird was sitting alone on the ledge. His two brothers and sisters had already flown away from there the day before. The day before yesterday, the his family siblings had already flown away. They had learned to fly. They lived in the same shelf and the same ledge, and they stayed there till day before yesterday, and then they had flown away from there. He had been afraid to fly with them. They had all flown away. They were born with him. They had learned to fly, and they had flown away from there, but he was scared of flying, and that's why he had stayed there. Somehow, when he had taken a little run forward to the brink of the ledge, anyhow, whenever he gathered courage to run forward to the brink means to come to the edge of the ledge, बिल्कुल किनारे पर. Somehow, whenever he tried, he gathered courage to fly. He came on the border of the ledge and attempted to flap his wings, tried to flap his wings, to move his wings. He became afraid. He started getting scared. The great expanse of sea stretched down beneath, and it was such a long way down, miles down. When he saw in front, he saw the widespread sea all around, stretched down beneath. Under his eyes, there was a huge amount of sea, and it was such a long way down. It appeared to be very deep, miles down from the ledge where he was sitting. The sea seemed to be far away from there and very deep. He felt certain that his wings would never support him. he was sure that if he tried to fly, he would not be able to fly because his wings would not support him. He would fall down and he would die. So he bent his head and ran away back to the little hole under the ledge. And that's why he, for fear of falling down, he bent his head. He became disappointed and he bent his head under his body wings and ran away back to the hole under the ledge where he had slept at night. Even when each of his brothers and his little sister, whose wings were far shorter than his own, even though his brother and sister who were also young like him and who had started flying, they were having less shorter wings than his own. Even then they had learned to fly, and they had ran to the brink. They came to the border and flapped their wings and flew away. But he was not able to gather up the courage to take that dive, which appeared to him very, very desperate. He was so desperate for the dive. Desperate means he was so impatient for the dive, but he was not able to take that dive, and that's why he was so sad. His father and mother had come around, calling him shrilly, upbraiding him. His father, Mother Seagull, Father Seagull came around towards him and called him to come and fly. They shouted at him, upbraided him. Upbraided means scolded him, and they even threatened him. They used all sorts of tactics. They tried to use scold him. They tried to scare him. They even tried to threaten him that they would let him starve. They would not give him any food. He would die of hunger on the ledge unless he flew away, if he did not fly away. But for the life of him, he could not move. But he was so scared that he could not move. He knew that if he just tried to fly, he would fall down. That was 24 hours ago. That had happened, all this event had happened 24 hours ago. Since 24 hours, he had no one with him. Since then, nobody had come near him. No one has come to his rescue, neither his mother, nor his father, nor his siblings. The day before, all the day long, he had watched his parents flying about with his brothers and sister. The day before yesterday, all day long, the whole day, he had seen that his parents were flying about with his brothers and sister. They were teaching them how to fly. They were trying to make them skilled in the art of flight. Flight means in the art of flying. They were the young ones. They had just recently born, and they were learning for the first time how to fly. So they had started flying for the first time thus just day before yesterday. His parents were teaching them how to skim the waves. They were also learning how to skim. Skim means to move lightly on a surface. They were trying to how to move on the waves, and how to dive for fish, how to catch fish, make a dive for a fish, because fish is their food. He had in fact seen his elder brother catch his first herring. He had seen his brother who had caught his first herring also, and devour it. Devour means to eat at a great speed. He had eaten that fish at once after catching it. He had seen all this from that ledge, and he saw that his brother was catching a fish and eating it standing on a rock, while his parents circled around him, raising a proud crackle. And his parents were so happy that they were circling around, they were flying around his brother, and they were also giving a proud crackle that they were successful in making him catch a fish. And all around, all the morning, the whole family had walked about on the big plateau. Plateau, plateau is a hill, a little bit hill which is quite plain or quite flat on the surface. A low hill, you can say. He saw that a whole family was walking about on the plateau, which was situated on the opposite to him, opposite to his hill, and they were all sitting over there and taunting him with his cowardice. They jeering. Taunting means they were quite jeering him, or they were making fun of him for being a coward, as he was not able to fly. He was not having courage to fly. The sun was now ascending the sky. Now you can see the birds flying around his mother and his two sisters, two brothers and one sister. They're all flying about. The sun was now ascending the sky. The sun was now rising in the sky. It was the morning, and it was quite late morning, blazing on his ledge that faced the south. Now the sun had become quite bright. It was quite blazing. It was shining very brightly. It appeared to be very shining with great heat, and he felt the sunlight quite bright on him, because he was facing the sun now. As he was sitting on the ledge, he felt the heat. He was feeling the heat because he had not eaten since the previous nightfall. He had eaten nothing since the previous nightfall. Since the last night he had been hungry for 2 days. He stepped slowly out to the brink of the ledge. What he did then now, he just tried to make fool of his parents. He tried to show that he was falling asleep. He stepped slowly out to the brink of the ledge. He just moved to the border of the ledge and stood on one leg, and he hid the other leg under his wings. He hid his one leg under his wings and closed an eye, and then he closed both the eyes, and pretending to be falling asleep, he acted as if he was falling asleep. He was sleeping. He thought that his parents would pay attention to him. Still, they took no notice of him. But to his great surprise, his parents did not pay attention to him. He saw his two brothers and his sister lying on the plateau, dozing with their heads sunk into their necks. He saw that his brothers and sister, they were lying on the plateau on the surface of the hill, and they were dozing. They were falling asleep with their heads sunk into their necks. The birds do not sleep lying on the surface. They just keep their heads into their necks. They just bend down and just hide their necks into their necks, and then they doze off. So he saw that his younger sister and brothers was dozing, and his father they were all relaxing. His father was preening the feathers. Preening means he was trying to maintain his feathers. He was just arranging his feathers on his white back. His back was white. As you know that seagulls are white birds. Sometimes they have dark backs also, but his back was quite white, and the bird was trying to maintain his feathers. Only his mother was looking at him. His mother was not doing anything. It was just looking at her child who was not able to fly. She was worried about him. She was standing on a little high hump on the plateau. She was there on the plateau on a little high surface, on the little raised surface. A hump means a projected, a lifted, a swollen part of the plateau, which was a little bit higher. Her white breast thrust forward. Her white breast, which was looking, her front part of the mm, body was looking a little bit swollen, a little bit thrust forward. And now and again she tore at a piece of fish that lay at her feet and then scraped each side of her beak on the rock. Now and again means again and again. Frequently, she tore a piece at a piece. She was tearing at a piece of fish that she had caught and that lay at her feet and lying at her feet, and then scraped. Scrap means rubbed each side of her beak on the rock. After taking out, tearing the piece of fish, she was striking or rubbing her beak against the rock. This is a favorite pastime of the birds. They just rub their beaks against the rock so that they can sharpen it. So the bird was also doing this activity. The sight of the food maddened him. When he saw the fish in the beak of her mother, and this scene was difficult for him to bear. This was quite, he was not able to resist his temptation, as he was so hungry. When the young seagull saw his mother having a piece of fish in her beak, he became mad. Now how he loved to tear food that way. He remembered that he would love to tear the food the way that his mother was doing, scraping his beak now and again to wet it. Wet it means to sharpen it. His mother was rubbing her beak now and again and again to sharpen it. This was also his favorite activity. Ga, 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 he cried, begging her to bring him some food. In his small cry, he begged his mother to bring him some food, to give him some food. Quack, coal, ah, she screamed back derisively. The mother, in reply, did not come to him. She just screamed back. She just made a sound of scream, and she just made a fun of him by showing that he was so coward, that he was so stupid. She just derisively means in a manner showing that someone is very stupid. She made him feel stupid by screaming and did not come to him. But he kept calling plaintively. Plaintively means sorrowfully. He continued to beg his mother to come and feed him. And after a minute or so, he uttered a joyful scream. And after a minute, he made a loud scream, joyful scream. His mother had picked up a piece of fish. His mother had caught a piece of fish in her beak, and was flying across to him with it. And he saw that his mother was flying across, just coming towards him. He leaned out. Leaned means he bent forward eagerly. With great curiosity, he bent forward that as soon as his mother brings him food, he would catch it. He started tapping the rock with his feet. With one leg, he was tapping the rock and trying to get nearer to her as she flew across. And when she came across towards him, he tried to catch the fish and get nearer to his mother. But when she was just opposite to him, when the mother was just close to him, she halted. She stopped. She did not come and sit on the ledge. She just stopped in front of him, inches away from him. Her wings became motionless. She stopped moving at all. She stopped flying and just stayed where she was, the piece of fish in her beak almost within reach of his beak. The piece of fish seemed to be a little inches away from him, which was within his reach. It was almost, not completely. It looked like that he could catch the fish from his mother's beak, but it was not actually. It was a few inches away. He waited a moment in surprise. He waited that perhaps his mother would come nearer and would feed him. He was quite surprised at the activity of his mother. He couldn't understand, wondering why she did not come nearer. He was quite surprised and thinking why his mother did not come closer to him. And then, maddened by hunger, and then he was so hungry that he could not resist his hunger anymore. He could not control his hunger anymore, and out of madness of hunger, he dived at the fish. He jumped at the fish. He made a dive to catch the fish. With a loud scream, he fell outward and downward into the space, and he was quite uncontrolled, and he now found that he was falling downward. He was in the air, into the space, and he started crying loudly. Then a monstrous terror seized him. A fear, great fear seized him, means caught him, and his heart stood still. His heart sunk, and it became. He stopped. It was quite. It was a moment of great fear. His heart sank. He could not understand what happened. He could hear nothing. He was unable to hear anything. But it only lasted a minute. But this was a thing of a minute only. It only lasted a minute. This remained only for a moment. The next moment, he felt his wings spread outward. Next moment, he felt that his wings had spread, come out of his body, and they had spread. They had started flying. They had come out of his body, and they were spread all both the sides. The wind rushed against his breast feathers. The wind was rushing against his breast feathers. His feathers were feeling the wind, and then under his stomach. And the wind, he felt the wind under his stomach and against his wings also. He could feel the wind blowing. He could now feel the tips of his wings cutting through the air. Now he was able to feel that he was just flying, cutting through the air. It was a very, very nice feeling. He was not falling headlong now, and he also realized that he was not falling as he was falling in the beginning. It was a different fall. He was flying now. He was soaring gradually. Soaring, flying high. Gradually means slowly and slowly downwards. Now he understood that he was flying downwards and outwards completely. He was no longer afraid. Now his fear had gone. He was no longer afraid now. He just felt a bit dizzy. He was a little bit uneasy, which is a feeling of uneasiness, uncomfortable feeling of spinning around and losing one's balance. He was feeling a little bit restless. Then he flapped his wings once more. Then he again tried to move his wings, give a flap to his wings, and he soared upward. Now he came up. It was very different feeling. He could now fly upward also. Ga 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 ga. Guacol, ah. His mother swooped past him. His mother just went past him, means came in front of him. His wings making a loud noise. Mother's wings were making loud noise in the air. He answered her with another scream. Young seagull also answered his mother by shouting again. Then his father flew over him screaming, and father came from over him, flew over him, and he also screamed. He saw his two brothers and sister flying around him, and suddenly he saw that his two brothers and sister were also flying side by side. along around him. They were curveting and banking. They were all making different kinds of movements. Curveting means moving with an action resembling to a horse, resembling a horse leap. Just they were just jumping. And banking means flying with one wing higher than the other. So they were making different kinds of movements. They were curveting, they were leaping like a horse, they were banking, flying with one wing higher and the other wing down lower, and then soaring and diving. They were all types of activities, different types of movements of flying. Then he completely forgot that he had not always been able to fly. For a moment he forgot that he had learned to fly recently, and for a few moments away he had not been able to fly, and commended himself to dive and soar and curve. And commended means praised himself, appreciated himself to dive and soar. That he had learned, he had been able to dive, he had been able to soar high, fly high. He was able to make curve means to turn, move in a curved manner, or and just he was shrieking shrilly. He was near the sea now. Now he had reached near the sea, flying down and down. He had reached near the sea, flying straight over it. Now he was over the surface of the sea, facing straight out over the ocean. Now he was facing over the ocean. He saw a vast green sea beneath him. He saw that green sea it appeared to be a green floor. The green sea was under his eyes. Under his body, with little ridges moving over it. Somewhere in the sea there were ridges, some small hills had come out of the water, which were looking like a small islands moving over it. And he turned his beak sideways. He just turned his face sideways and cawed amusedly. Cawed means made a cawing sound. Amusedly means in a funny manner. His parents and his brother and sister had landed on the green flooring ahead of him. His parent and his siblings had already landed on the green flooring. Green flooring, the green sea water in front of him. Ahead of him is before him. उससे पहले ही वो उसमें उतर चुके थे. They had already landed into the water. They were beckoning to him. Beckoning means calling him. They were inviting him to come into the sea, calling him shrilly. They were calling him shrilly means in a sharp voice कि तुम भी आ जाओ. He dropped his legs to stand on the green sea. He, in an effort to skim on the surface, he dropped his one leg. He was just wanted to give a try. So first of all he moved his legs to stand on the green sea. He saw that his leg sank into it. His leg got down into the water. He screamed with fright. He shouted with fear and attempted to rise again, and decided not to land. He just tried to fly again, flapping his wings. But he was so tired and weak with hunger that he could not rise. But as he was tired, and he was also become weak due to hunger, that he could not fly up, and exhausted means tired by great exercise, and he had been flying also from that ledge. So this flight had made him also a little bit more tired. So due to the strange exercise which he had done for the first time in his life, he had become quite tired. So he could not make effort to fly up. His feet sank into the green sea. His feet, as a result, his feet sank down or drowned into the green sea, and then his belly touched it, and then his belly came in the contact of water. His body touched the water, and stomach touched the water and surface of the water, and he sank no further. But to his great surprise, he was not sinking, he was not drowning, he was floating on it. He was able to float and skim on the surface, and was around him, and around him his family was screaming. And due to his great happiness, his whole family was screaming around him, screaming, crying, shouting, appreciating him, praising him, and their beaks were offering him scraps of dog fish, and they were all offering him the the different kinds of, you can say, the reward of his hard work, or you can say his conquering his fear. They were trying to offer him scraps of dog fish, as he was so hungry. In a reward, he had made his first flight. In this way, he had made his first flight. He was able to fly for the first time. So this story is the the way to teach us that everything, sometimes we are afraid of the unknown, but the bravery lies in overcoming that fear. We should not remain afraid of a thing, and we should come out of that fear and try to get victory over that fear. So this is all about this lesson. Thank you. In the next exercise, you have to write down the question answers and the extracts of this story. Thank you.